Do you ever feel like you're doing everything exactly the way you're supposed to? You followed all the programs, you listened to your coach, you're doing all the things that you're supposed to do, and you still aren't getting it? You still feel like the best kept secret. You still feel overlooked, underpaid, and really just not seen, known, or the authority that you know you're supposed to be. I get that. I've lived it. And I built this moment, this live, this time right now, here today, is for you. Hi, my name is Steve Kidd. I'm a third generation minister, international best-selling author of 38 books and counting. I've worked with nearly 5,000 people now, helping them write, publish, market their books to bestseller, and everything that goes beyond that. But what I really do, and this is important, is I'm really actually here to help purpose driven people like you, people who are out to make a difference in the world, be seen, heard, and make an impact. And from that, get paid the way that you should be paid. Because let's face it, there's an old saying that says you can't be the light of the world if you can't afford to keep your own lights on. It's really hard to keep your energy up when you have nothing that's feeding your own energy too. You give and give and give and give and give, and you become completely empty with nothing else that you're doing to fill you up. I understand all of that. And I want to specifically address that today. I'm going to do it by just spending some time here today, being very real and raw and sharing with you who I am and what I've been through. I'm 58 years old. I've been divorced twice. I have 6 children. All of them are grown and married and have lives of their own. And I don't see them nearly as much as you might have that dream of doing. And that's okay. They're living really great lives, and I'm really happy and proud of them. I actually have 9 grandkids now who are growing quicker than I want them to. And soon they'll all be adults too. It's just scary what can happen when you get married when you're 19 years old, and you have an Insta 3-year old. And, it can make you look or feel very old very quickly. And throughout the course of that entire time, I actually started in sales at the age of 5. I was 5 years old, and actually, I saw my brothers having the cards and napkins that they were going to sell. And I was like, can I go out and sell it too? 5 years old, no fear, right? Plus, I had that natural bone, not really salesperson, but really that same thing that shows up today. That is why I'm here to help you be seen and heard, is because I care about the impact. I care about people very deeply. But I also learned even way at that early age, if you wanted to have any money as a pastor's kid or as a minister, you were going to need to find a different way to be able to make the money, because typically speaking, those aren't the most high paid positions in the world. And so I went out. My brothers, telling me, no, don't go there. We already went there. They said no. And of course, knowing no fear or being ornery, both, I went there anyway. And the people would invite me in, and then they'd buy stuff. It's easy to sell when you're 5. You can feel like the most powerful professional person in the world when you're 5 years old, because the power of cuteness overwhelms everything else. And the people just, for the most part, have a hard time saying no. That's why the Girl Scout cookies have always worked so well. It's not like the teenager Girl Scouts as much as it's the little 5-year old that's standing out there at the table outside of the grocery store. When you walk in, they're like, "Do you want to buy some cookies?" And you're like, and you don't want to tell them no. And so you're like, "Okay, let me catch you on the way out." And then on the way out, you do it. Now, I'm going to give you a secret that I learned through the course of my weight struggle journey. And that's that: find out, and if they don't, encourage them to find out if they have a way that they could donate the cookies. So you can still buy the cookies from the cute little Girl Scout, the little brownies, and then have them donate them. I was fortunate because I lived in Fallbrook, which is right on the west gate of Camp Pendleton, which is a huge military base. And, I was blessed to be able to, give them $10. They're like $5 a box of cookies these days. Give them $10 or $20 and say, hey, yeah, have this donation go and give, some boxes of cookies to the troops. And it's a really good way to feel good about the things. So I've been in sales ever since then. I became a sales manager at 19 years old, um, mostly because the Kirby office that I was working out of, Kirby Vacuums, for those of you that are maybe partially familiar with that. They were reduced down to pretty much next to nobody, and as they brought on new staff, they needed somebody to be able to help and train them. But it also was because I was doing really well and I was making a lot of sales and winning awards and I showed up in that space, not because I want to come on and teach you how to be a salesperson. I can definitely teach you sales techniques. I've been a sales trainer, sales manager for a lot of years, but the heart and soul and core of the way that my training style shows up in that too is all about how incredibly important you are and how much the world needs you. I help you take that passionate, deeply purposeful intent of you and show you how to use it powerfully. And one of the elements of that absolutely is making sales and getting paid. But here's the thing, and if you want the one trick, the one tip into sales expertise, it's this phrase. I learned it from my good friend Lily Anderson Brown. I don't know if Lily and Mickey are still married or not, but Lily Anderson. Um, and Lily said this, and it's stuck ever since. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Because you see, a person will do just about anything you ask them if they understand the why behind it. And the problem that we run into far too often is that we don't make the why clear enough. And so I'm coming on today to, yes, talk about who I am and why I'm showing up for you. But really, more than anything, I really want you to begin to see some basic things in that. And I wanted to share with you that the struggle is real. Just about everybody that I know right now that's up to good, that's doing good in the world, that is wanting to make an impact and a difference in the world, has found themselves struggling. There's a small group of my close friends. I actually just started just yesterday a LinkedIn group that is specifically just intended for us to pray for one another and just to support each other. I believe we're on the very ending edge of a breakthrough that's going to make a massive transition in not just our own lives, but in all the people's lives in all of the world. I believe that some really amazingly great things are coming to this world, and I believe that the status quo, the devil, as it is, whatever. You could throw in whatever thing you want to put in there. It's not really about trying to proselytize you to my religion. It's more just a matter of understanding that whenever we come up against a worthwhile, when we're trying to achieve a worthwhile goal, there will be obstacles. And most of the time, those obstacles come from people with different ideologies. And unfortunately, and I had to say this to somebody. I was talking to a person who at the time was a really good friend. And I had to say to them, it's like, I understand the ideology that says that they don't believe in the devil or evil or bad or those kind of things. But, we have enough examples, both right now, today, and each person in their own different thought process can tell you who they think the devil is. And that's not the point I'm trying to make at all. But we have some very definite things that can absolutely be seen as just pure evil, just absolutely horrendously evil kind of things. And those types of spiritual forces, if you will, those energies, whatever you want to call them, they come against you when you're trying to do something good. If you were just going along to get along and just kind of going with the flow, you see, when you're going with the flow, okay, the river flows downstream. And if you just get on the river on a raft and just float downstream, you're going to go from, and I mean, there may be some rapids and some rocky parts on it, but it's going to continue flowing in that direction. However, when the salmon comes and they want to go back to their spawning ground, so they're swimming upstream, you have to fight against the current. You have to fight against the tide. And you absolutely have the ability to do it. Now, the difference being is, and that's why I do like that word tide versus the stream of a river, because tides come in and tides go out. Tides change with the course of, in this case, the rotation of the earth and the, positioning of the moon and stuff like that. If Patricia was on, she could give us an expert course on the whole moon and all of its gravitational pulls. But, in real truth, the same happens in our world, and things come and things go. There's an old saying, it's actually King Solomon, if you're wondering where it came from, that says, the more things change, the more they are the same. There's nothing new under the sun. Nothing new under the sun is actually Solomon's quote, for those of you that are, getting finicky on my words, right? Because things are cyclical, things change. I like to use the example of a tie, because throughout the course of my life now, and going back and looking in my father's closet of the ties that he had, going back to even, when I was a baby or even before I was born, ties change. And I'm talking, neckties, and for the most part, we don't wear ties like for the longest time, if you were in corporate business, you wore a tie, and that's not almost at all the case anymore. There are still a few places like in court and stuff like that where fairly typically a lawyer is going to wear a tie into the courtroom. Um, and we've even seen some transitions of late in Congress where there are certain people that aren't dressed in suit and ties anymore. It just isn't as big of a deal. But back then, I mean, every professional, my dad being a minister, had ties. And they've gone all the way from wide. I mean, my dad had one tie that I swear to you, you could have, not worn a shirt underneath of your suit coat and just put on the tie, and nobody would have known you didn't have a shirt on. You just have a collar and the tie, and nobody would have known. They were that huge. And by the time we got into the early 80s, 1983, 84 especially, ties were very, very skinny. And, especially in the mid 80s, I loved the really skinny, thin leather ties. Leather ties are a little different to tie than what you would tie a regular tie. And they don't want to stay together as well. I have lots of pictures. Well, I had. I don't think I have any more of them anymore. Back in the day when, the leather tie would be going like this rather than one down. And the trick and the secret to it is you actually use a piece of Scotch tape and you put it on the back side of it and you stick it, and then that way the back sticks to the front. So if leather ties ever come back into season, now it had nothing to do with what we're talking about, but just helpful. But just like the size and the width and the length of ties have changed over the years, and will again, the direction that things are going. There are times of massive prosperity that we can look back over time, and there are times of massive hurt and famine and want. And some of those are area based, some of those are globally based. It just depends on the different thing. And there are some things that those of you that I know that I'm speaking to today, I want to encourage you to not be disheartened, because your voice does matter and the tide is turning. And we need you now while it's tough. while it is like swimming upstream, while you do feel like you're going against the flow, now is when we need you to show up. There will be a ton of people on the bandwagon when things are easy, when the world is intentionally trying to do good in the world. There will be a bunch of people that will also be sharing. And that's not to diss them. That's just they're not the leaders that you are. There will be a ton of people following what you're doing. But what you do right here, right now, today, that's what's going to make the difference. Now, I say all of that because I want you to understand the message, the inspiration, the goal, the thought, the concept. I want you to see and feel that vision so that as we begin to look, and I just want to share real and raw with you, I feel that pressure. This year has been not one of, has been the toughest year I've ever had in business. Just flat out. You can feel palpably on a day-to-day basis, energetically, enthusiastically, all of those kind of things, the fight against that breakthrough. And the reason why we know we're getting closer to a breakthrough is think about a rubber band. Okay, when a rubber band, and I wish I had one here on my desk because it's such a great example. A rubber band sits at a particular width. I mean, it's just, say if it's this wide across, right? And that's just its natural state. It'll lay on your desk and be that wide. Okay. And if you take, just say, for example, two pencils and put it in just enough tensile strength so that it's not sliding down. So you're just holding it out at basically the width that it is. There's no pressure really required to do that, or very, very little. Okay. As you pull the rubber band out further and further and further and further and further, you have to exhibit more strength. Okay. That's why resistance bands in exercise work so well, because the resistance band is, let's say it's 3 feet long or 4 feet long. It depends on which resistance band you're using. And they're color coded based on how much, resistance they'll give for what level you're at. And the resistance band, if you're just holding it, or if you've got your hand on both ends of it, there's nothing to it. There's no resistance at all. And as you pull it out, okay, and sometimes in some of the exercises, you actually even double it over, to create more resistance, right? And as you pull out on that resistance, it gets harder and harder and harder and harder and harder. Now, going back to our rubber band example, if you pull the rubber band out far enough, eventually what happens? The rubber band will snap. What does that mean? That means the resistance will stop. But when you get right before that snap point, depending on the particular, resistance of the resistance band or the rubber band or whatever have you, it can mean a whole lot of effort you have to do, especially when you're holding it out at the edges, pulling and trying to get it to go further than what you've ever pulled before. For some of you that are feeling that resistance, that's what you're at. You're at the very end of resistance of what you've never been at before. And I get that because I'm right there with you. Now there's two ways you can handle that. Option A, you could just stop resisting. You can just be like, okay, I pulled the rubber band as far as I could go and I don't have any more strength and I let go. Now, if you just let go, I'm going to tell you right now, all right, if you've never done this before with a rubber band, if you just let go, it's going to snap and smack you, all right? And a lot of us, probably that's some of what we've dealt with this year, is we've had a few times when we've been pulling really hard and we've let go and we've let the rubber band smack us and we're stinging from the ouch that is our own giving up. I've been really brutally honest with you. It was about a month ago. I was sitting in front of my computer, quitting my business. All right. Not like I want to. I mean, I was done, 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 done. Okay. And actually to be sarcastic really to ChatGPT, I ask it, it's like, how well do you really know me? Really horrible prompt, by the way. And it said, I think I know you pretty well. Here, let me tell you some about you. And I was like, wow, ChatGPT thinks I'm pretty amazing. Um, okay, fine, Mr. Smarty. I didn't smart off to it, but that's what I was feeling. With that said, how crowded is my space? Is it too crowded? And is this even something that I should continue doing? Or should I quit? And if I quit, am I just done? Should I just give up? Or, should I pivot to something else? And it came back with, and you've heard me say this before, and I want you to hear it clearly today if you've never heard it before. It came back with this statement. And this is powerful. We need to hear this. You are the signal, not the noise. There is a lot of noise in your space, and that doesn't matter because you're the signal, not the noise. You need to hear that today. I knew you did. I felt it as I was putting things together. Some days my lives are very extemporaneous. There's very little planning for it. I come up with a title and I just boom, go for it. Okay. I'll have ChatGPT help me write a description based on that title and based on everything we've done. But other than that, I go completely off script. And sometimes the completely off script is totally, absolutely 100% the best. There are other days like today when I spend a lot of time really, really honing what am I going to talk about. And then I go off script anyway because I did a little bit today. I've got the outline in front of me and I'm way off of what it was. Okay, because I knew what you needed to hear as I began to feed into the energy, I guess is the right word of saying, and then just listen to the leading of my spirit telling me what you need to hear. You need to hear, yes, the struggle is real. It's palpable. It's something that sometimes may feel insurmountably impossible. And things that should have happened in November or this time last year or last April, or maybe even the traces of some things that did happen. I had some stuff that came together last April, early May, somewhere in that frame, that looked like the whole tide was already shifting and that things were turning. And they snapped back on me because they weren't the right thing. And I'm glad now, in retrospect, that I'm not dealing with that particular thing I'm thinking of because all distractions are equal. And it would have taken me way off course. And I wouldn't be here today sharing with you that you're the signal, not the noise. Encouraging you by just sharing with you the brutal, honest truth of the struggles that I've had in my life so that you can know that you're not alone and that what you're going through, though difficult, and don't in any way think that I don't understand what you're going through, because I get it. I understand. But it's important for us to know who we are. The whole reason why I keep talking to you about the 3 C's, why I rave about, rant about, go on and on and on about clarity, is because clarity is powerful. Because clarity develops. Clarity isn't a one and done. You don't just get this boom breakthrough epiphany and now I'm clear for the rest of my life. It grows because you continue to grow. As you know more, you do more. As you learn more, you can teach more. As you grow, so does your clarity. Now there's a thread. That thread is called the real you. The real you's been showing up since you were 5. See, the 5-year-old me that was out selling, it isn't because, you know, the clarity that I should have is, Steve, you should be a sales trainer. I mean, after all, you've got the credentials for it. I do. But but the clarity came in when I began to see the thread of how does sales match with having been a youth pastor and a worship leader? How does that match with having started a marketing company way back in 1986, 20 years old, 19 and a half, whatever, you know, and how does marketing, how does the fact that back then I was looking through giant catalogs of audio video equipment and helping mostly radio stations and churches find out what the best equipment for their situation was. How does that all tie together? And when you look back at your life, sometimes it can feel like chaos, but the core of the real you, it had to do with the fact that I saw a need and I knew the solution. I have one of those kind of brains that just kind of thinks. I like to use the phrase, I live in the air in front of the bleeding edge of the spear tip. That's just where my brain goes. It drove my children crazy because they'd come up with a really great idea and I was so excited for them. They'd be like, yeah, and then you could, and they'd be like, Dad, why can't we ever just be good enough? And it never had anything to do with that. It was just purely and simply that's how my brain worked. In the days of the 2400 baud modem, I've said this before, and some of you have heard it and some of you haven't. In the days of the 2400 baud modem, to give you an idea, a fax machine is 9600 baud, or was. They're a little bit better than, well, they're internet based now, so they don't work under that at all. But back in the days when your phone line, you plugged the phone line into the fax machine, they ran at essentially almost 4 times faster, 3.5-ish times faster than what the modem was running at. Okay. In those days, I was having visions of and creating concepts for, you know, concepts, not doing the programming, for the concept of what we all know now as streaming media. The truth of the matter is if you had wanted to watch a video 2 Fridays from now, so 2 weeks from now, you'd have to start the download now in order for it to be available for you to watch 2 weeks from now. Now if you want to watch a movie this afternoon, this evening, tomorrow, whatever, you're just going to go in to whatever streaming service or whatever cable company you've got. You're going to look and find the video you want to watch, and you're going to turn it on. Every once in a while, you'll get that buffering. And that usually happens because you want to fast forward through the credits at the beginning or something like that. But I was thinking about those things back then because ultimately that's just kind of how my brain works. Because I believe in you. I already see you in places you can't even fathom how amazing they are. And they start right here. Patricia says at 5 she used to raid closets and throw pop-up fashion shows. Ta-da! What is the thing that still shows up today, Patricia, that has to do with the same passion that drove that little 5-year-old into the closet to do fashion shows? And with everything that life's thrown at us, because you, just like me, have been through things, and the world dumps stuff on us. And most of what the world is trying to do to you is they're trying to quench that real you. There is no little child that, no 2, 3, 4-year-old that says, when I grow up, I want to be mediocre. Now, yes, they're often when they're little like that, they think some of the most mundane things are just the coolest jobs you could possibly have. They want to work at McDonald's or be the pizza delivery person because they think that's just the totally coolest thing. They think that if they get to work at McDonald's, they're going to eat unlimited Happy Meals all day long. And it's not about asking, do you want fries with that 1,000 times? Or mopping floors or any of the kind of things that any of you that have ever worked in fast food know that really is about. I raid your brain closet and find the gems with a ta-da. That's absolutely you, Patricia. You've always been in search of the gems. And for each of you listening, that thread still exists. And no matter how much the world is dumped on top of it, no matter how much you've been through, you are still the amazingly unique you that you were back when you were that little kid dreaming of being an astronaut or a firefighter, or that cool bum on the street that gets to sit on the sidewalk all day long and ask people if they've got quarters because you'd like a quarter. I mean, I remember my youngest Maya, you know, back in especially in the late 90s, early 2000s, pop-ups were huge for websites. Everybody's website had pop-ups and they were popping constantly. And any of you that had internets back then, you know, you hate pop-ups too. Um, and Kathy was shopping for some stuff at a shopping, you know, at some kind of mall store, J.C. Penney's or something like that. And of course, the pop-up popped up because she was searching women's clothes. It popped up like bras. Okay. And Maya, of course, being the little upstart 4 or 5 year old that she was then, you know, was like, Mom, how come she doesn't have any clothes on? You know, and Kathy's like, well, you know, some women do things like that to get money. She's like, I need money, right? I mean, no thought of any of the kind of things that we as the world dump on these little children or the adults that have been dumped on us our whole life from bad relationships with exes or, you know, situations at work, bad bosses, wrong decisions we've made ourselves. And let's be honest, all the trash that we dump on ourselves, all the stuff that our brain and our mouth says to our ears that nobody else in the world has to. Now, some of those may be messages that came from somebody else that we now repeat. That's the worst of it. Somebody says something, and I'm not even going to say them because I don't even want my ears to hear them. And then we repeat it 1,000 times. That person moves on with their life. They don't even, you know, they may have yelled something at you out of the window of a car or while you were driving by them. And you're still repeating that message in your mind. Ever done that? I know I have. Your ex called you something or says something about you, and you're still struggling with that while your ex is off. They don't even remember they said it. If you confronted them about that, they'd probably tell you they didn't say it, especially if your exes are like mine are. But, you know, that was just a total diss at them. I'm sorry. You know, it's one of those kind of things. And then we keep repeating it and repeating it and repeating it and beating ourselves up over the thing while that person goes on and lives their life. That's the worst part of being abused. The abuser abuses us, and that's not good. Okay, I'm not in any way justifying the abuser. But for every one thing they did to us, we've repeated that pattern to ourselves 1,000 times over. The message, the thing that they did to us. We keep reliving it. Today is the day of breakthrough. The clarity comes from when we go back throughout the course of our life and we see that real you showing up. And we begin to see, yes, that you find the gems within a person's brain and say, ta da! What is your thing? That's Patricia's thing. My thing is helping you see just how incredibly valuable you are. And that in order for the world to know that too, you've got to be visible. And that has to do with showing up every single day. And that's why I show you how to do it by doing it. Not because life's perfect, not because I've already arrived and I'm, in that ta-da, I'm perfect moment, but it's ta-da, I showed up. It's about doing what you can do today, maximizing this wonderfully amazing thing that we call today. Tomorrow's going to come, and you'll be even more amazing tomorrow because you're going to build on what you did today tomorrow. But you got to maximize today. You got to go live. So we're going to grab our phone. Okay, you got to do a minimum of 5 seconds. I'd like to encourage you to do 5 hours. Okay, 25 minutes. But we're going to pick up the phone. Hi, my name is, and I help you do. The one thing I'd really love for you to know today is, so it would look like this. Hi, my name's Steve, and I help you learn how necessary it is for you to be visible and valuable in the world. So what I need you to know today is, yes, the pressure is real. And sometimes giving up seems like the best way to go. But keep that pressure on. Keep stretching. Keep pushing the boundaries. Keep showing up today. Because the tide is shifting. Because you are a difference maker. You are a world changer. And the world needs you, and we need you right now to share that thing that you share, that stuff that you're great at. Because the tide doesn't just shift, we shift it by our momentum, pushing forward the good and the things that advance ourselves, but more importantly, others. Everything that you ever knew, know, or will learn is only as good as you use it and share it. Go live today. Do it even if it's just like what I did. Even if you just go out and you just share, this is me, raw and real. And I wake up some mornings and I just don't know that I can continue on. Even with the sinus infection that I'm still fighting with a little bit, even with it being 95 degrees outside and the air conditioner's off because it got cold in my room from air conditioning. Imagine that. That's weird, I know. You just do it. Put on a collared t-shirt or wear, a collared shirt or wear a t-shirt. Show up in your sweats and fuzzy slippers. Just show up. Start talking. Your clarity will come as you do it. And the more consistently you show up, the more you're going to connect. And as much as anything else, right now, you needed to make an impact in your life. You needed to do what it's going to do for you. Because until you regroup you, nobody else can be changed by your message. Go live and then come and join us in the Visibility Amplifier community, visibilityamplifier.com. We've got some cool things that we'll do for you for free. We've got some great, really low end. We're not looking to make a massive ton of money out of that group. We want to help you show up. 99.999% of the stuff is all just free and me trying to help you. When you get to the point where you need to pay for things, we're going to help you out. We're going to get you there because you need it, because somebody's waiting on you and they need it. And we're going to continue building and pushing the momentum. And as the tide shifts, people are going to know you are one of the world changers that transformed this world into the place that it's becoming. It's moving that direction. It's going to go there, and you're part of it. And people are going to know because you are going to show up today. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate you. I hope you will come and join us in Visibility Amplifier community. Visibilityamplifier.com will take you right straight there. I love you. I appreciate you. So glad you're here. Thanks for doing what you do. I am so glad that you're here with us. And I hope until we're together and next time, you have a great week.